Hey, what's your name?
I'm Greg Stewart.
And what are you doing here this fine Sunday morning?
I'm at the church where I serve as senior minister, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Francisco, and today I'm meeting with a third grade class about who they are and what they believe.
So I wanted to chat with you a little bit because we've been working together some since last November when Prop 8 passed. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about civil disobedience. We had the blessing of participating in civil disobedience together last November. And I just wonder if you would maybe talk some about that experience and tell that story.
Sure. My decision to break the law really came out of came from two places. One was the actual circumstances around the passage of Prop 8, where all of the usual channels to let out energy and frustration and try to make a difference had been closed to us, and there was no other way to make the world whole again, and to model that the world can be whole by our own participation in it. We've got to show up for life, and we've got to show up for the things that concern us. So there was that piece, and the other piece came from strongly held religious convictions that justice is the center of religious life, and that our way of being in the world and the way we commit intentional acts of social justice determine our place in the world. So there were these two strong. There was a personal and agenda, and then more of a prophetic agenda for me that said people that don't like the way things are need to do something about it, not complain about it. And as I said, there was nothing left to do but to let the city, the state, and the world know that we will not tolerate discrimination in any form. We will not have rights taken from us. And these are justice issues. These are religious issues, but they're also just human issues. And so for all of those reasons, it was very easy for me to make the decision to do it. Now, after I made the decision to do it, there were the usual, I was nervous, not sure what to expect. With you and other colleagues, it felt really good to know that we weren't doing this alone, that we were in a group, but there were 15 of us. And heart was pounding as we're getting closer to the spot where we're going to block an intersection that would maybe shut down a freeway if we did it long enough, and we did. I think that standing in the line, blocking the street, with police standing right next to me and kind of saying things into my ear that were both supportive and not supportive at different times, it made me realize that this is democracy in action. This is the way that all people should be able to live, and this is what I hope our country's striving for. It's certainly what I'm striving for. And there was a gentle empowerment that took place when we were standing there and later arrested, and those plastic cuffs were put around our hands, to know that we had done everything we could do in that moment at that time, and B, that our life was no longer our own once those cuffs went on. And it was for me, a feeling of liberation, not imprisonment. Now, if I'd gone to prison, I'd feel differently. But it was a feeling of liberation to know that I've done what I can do, and now it's out of my hands, and some other entity is going to have to help me move with the flow of justice. But we had done what I could. So there's a sense of relief. And then a camaraderie with those I was arrested with. All of these things made me realize that in the end, it's community building that counts. And the way we do that is to get out of our comfort zones and be present with those who are different from us as well as those who are similar.
A few minutes ago, you were talking a little bit about the personal and the prophetic aspects of the work that you're doing. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about the personal. Like, what is it, what's your story? What brings you to doing this kind of work?
Oh, Prop 8 is personal to me at a very basic level. I'm a gay minister, a gay man, a gay father. I have 5 kids, and my partner and I are very concerned about creating a world that will support them in all of their decision making and all of their exploration and discovery. So, and as a gay man, I've experienced discrimination as long as I can remember, as long as I was acknowledging that I was gay. So it didn't take me long to realize that the only way to live in this world and be, quote, different is to live out loud, is to claim my space and claim my rights and claim my hopes and claim my future by doing something in the present to make it better. So there's that. I grew up in a Baptist household, wonderful family, and learned early on that there were different worldviews, but that where I was growing up, there was one worldview that held sway, and my life and my personhood wasn't included there. And that was the first time I remember going to a conference as a very young adult, maybe a teenager even, a gathering of Baptists, and the issue of gay ministers came up, and this was probably back in the 80s, if I remember right. And I remember they decided to take a vote on the plenary floor where people had to stand up. You couldn't raise your hand, you couldn't do a secret ballot, you had to stand up, and whether you were for or against the inclusion of gay people in the ministry. And they did the for, and there were probably, maybe 25% of those stood up, but I was one that stood up. And then they had the other side stood up, which there was thunderous applause. What I didn't say is that my youth minister was sitting next to me, and I knew there was a lot of pressure on me to, I didn't know if I could do that in front of him, but I did this as a young adult, as a teenager, and to my surprise, even though he voted the exact opposite way, when he left, he put his arm around me, and he said, "Thanks for standing tall." And that was the beginning. It may have been the beginning, I'm not sure, but that, I think, was the beginning of my understanding that you show up, you stand up, and fight for your rights. That's not a privilege, it's a responsibility that we have to each other.
That's powerful. So we talked about right after the election, but now we're at kind of another transitional moment where the California Supreme Court is going to be deciding, whether to uphold or overturn Prop 8. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about why you're, considering doing civil disobedience on decision day if the Supreme Court upholds Prop 8.
Well, the easy answer is because I can't help it. And that's the emotional response. But I don't know if it's a rational response, but I guess my response is that I have seen through Martin Luther King's ministry, through Gandhi, through the whole concept of soul force, that the only way to make change is to keep showing up and to keep the pressure on and to keep exposing our humanity in as many ways as possible, and in as direct confrontational ways sometimes is possible, is necessary to do that, to remind people that all people are the same under one sky. The only way to do that I know is to model it boldly. And with this next round, we're talking about rights that have been taken away. Not rights that have not yet to be granted, but rights that have been taken away. To me, this is unprecedented and unacceptable and unjust. And once again, my belief that the path through life is a path of committing intentional acts of social justice. I don't know what else I could do. And my particular calling is to encourage as many others to do the same thing. You may not have to break the law, but you do have to stand up and show up. You do have to be present for the movement and go with it. And if you feel, as I do, that you just can't do anything else but show the world that it's time to stop and reassess what we're doing, and do that in a dramatic way, then I encourage you to live your faith or live your life or whatever you call it that way. And now's the time. To me, the time is urgent, and our methods are compassion, and urgency and compassion can produce a great, great miracle. Wow. I sound like a minister, don't I?
Cool.